By the third time, I already knew what he was going to say. And I already knew I wasn't allowed to say no. I was sitting in the bathroom of a clinic on a Thursday afternoon. Same clinic. Same waiting room with the uncomfortable chairs and magazines nobody reads. Same nurse who smiled too kindly. Third time in 4 years. I kept thinking about that number. 3. How did I end up here 3 times? He'd promised after the first time it would never happen again. Sworn after the second time that we'd be ready next time. But here I was, staring at the same beige wall. And when I'd told him about the positive test this time, when I'd felt that small flutter of hope in my chest, he'd said the exact same thing. We can't. Not now. You know we can't. You need to make the right choice here. But it wasn't a choice. It never was. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old.
And this is the story of how the man I love took away my voice, my autonomy, my right to decide what happened to my own body. How he convinced me 3 times over 4 years that what I wanted didn't matter, that his plans were our plans, his future was our future, and how I finally understood that loving someone doesn't mean disappearing, but it took 3 times before I saw what was really happening. Before I continue, I need to tell you something important. This story is a fictionalized narrative, created to protect the privacy of real people. Names have been changed, details altered. But every single emotion, every moment of feeling like you have no say in your own life, every word of manipulation disguised as partnership, every second of realizing someone has taken control of the most intimate parts of your existence, all of this is based on real experiences. Real American women. Real relationships destroyed by coercion and control. If you recognize yourself in this story, if this sounds like something you're living through right now, you are not alone. Reproductive coercion affects 1 in 4 women. 1 in 4. And the path forward that I'm about to share with you might help you find your way out too. I need you to understand who I was before all this started. I was an elementary school teacher in Denver, Colorado. 3rd grade. I loved it. Loved those kids. Loved watching them learn to read. And chapter books for the first time. Seeing their faces light up when they finally understood long division. I'd wanted to be a teacher since I was 8 years old. Had this very clear vision of my life. Teaching. Getting married. Having kids of my own someday. Simple. Uncomplicated. I had my own apartment in Cap Hill. Small, 1 bedroom. Could barely afford it on a teacher's salary, but it was mine. Plants on the windowsill, photos of family and friends on the walls, yoga on Wednesday nights, brunch with my college roommate on Sundays, hiking on Saturdays when the weather was good. I was happy. Really happy. The kind of happy where you don't think about being happy because it's just your normal. I met Ryan at a friend's birthday party at a brewery in Reno. Almost didn't go. Was tired from a long week at school. But my friend Emma texted saying I had to come, so I went. Ryan was there. Friend of the birthday girl's boyfriend. He was charming, funny, asked me about teaching, actually seemed interested. Not like those guys who ask what you do and immediately start talking about themselves. He listened, laughed at my stories about the kids, told me his sister was a teacher too, so he knew how hard it was. How underappreciated teachers were. At the end of the night, he asked for my number. I gave it to him. 4 days later, first date, coffee that turned into lunch. Then we walked around City Park for 2 hours just talking. He worked in tech sales, made good money, was ambitious, wanted to start his own company someday, had plans, goals. I liked that about him. Liked that he knew what he wanted. When he kissed me goodbye that day, I felt something. That flutter, that maybe this could be something real. We dated for 8 months before he asked me to move in. He had a nice 2-bedroom condo in Cherry Creek. Much nicer than my apartment. He said it didn't make sense for me to keep paying rent when I was there most nights anyway. Said we could save money, plan for our future. And I thought, yes, this is moving forward. This is what adults do. So I gave up my apartment, moved my plants and photos and books into his place, our place. That first month was good. We'd cook dinner together, watch movies, fall asleep on the couch. He'd leave me little notes before work, bring me coffee in bed on weekends. It felt like the beginning of something permanent. The first situation happened 6 months after I moved in. We hadn't been planning anything, hadn't really talked seriously about the future yet.
We'd mentioned it in abstract terms. Someday, when we're ready. But I was on birth control, taking it every day. Except I'd had that stomach bug in February, been sick for 3 days, hadn't thought about how that might affect things. Then I was late, a week late, 2 weeks. I took a test on a Tuesday morning before school. 2 lines. I stared at it for probably 5 minutes. Just staring, trying to process. I felt scared, but also something else, something I wasn't expecting. A tiny bit of excitement, a tiny bit of maybe this could work, we love each other, we live together. Maybe this is just happening sooner than planned. I decided to tell him that night, made his favorite dinner, waited until we were done eating. Then I just said it, I'm pregnant. I watched his face change, the smile fade, his jaw tighten. He put his fork down, looked at me, and said, "We can't keep it." Just like that. We can't keep it. Not a question. Not a discussion. A statement. I felt like I'd been punched. Said what? And he said, "Sarah, we're not ready. We've talked about this. We want to travel. I want to get my business off the ground. You're still paying off student loans. We can't afford this right now. This isn't the right time." I tried to argue, tried to say maybe we could make it work. People do it. People have babies without perfect timing all the time. But he was so calm, so logical. Pulled up spreadsheets on his laptop, showed me numbers. Cost of daycare, lost income from my maternity leave, how much debt we'd go into. He said, "I love you. I want to have kids with you, but not now. Not like this. We need to be smart, make the right choice for our future." That word, choice. He kept saying choice, like it was my decision, like he was supporting whatever I wanted. But the way he said it, the way he'd already decided, it didn't feel like a choice. I cried, told him I needed to think. He said, "Of course, take your time. Think about what kind of life we could give this child right now. Think about what this would do to your career, to our plans." And I did think, thought about it for 3 days, barely slept. Every time I tried to imagine keeping it, he'd bring up another reason why we couldn't. Until I felt like I was being selfish for even considering it. Like I was being irresponsible, childish, not thinking clearly. On Friday, I told him, "Okay, we'll make an appointment." He hugged me, told me he loved me, that this was the right decision, that we'd have kids when we were ready, when it was right. The appointment was on a Tuesday. He came with me, held my hand in the waiting room, paid for everything, drove me home after, took care of me, and for a few days after, he was so attentive, so loving, brought me soup, watched movies with me, told me how brave I was, how much he loved me. I tried to feel okay about it, tried to tell myself we'd made the right choice. But something felt wrong. Something felt broken inside me. I couldn't explain it to him because I didn't want him to think I regretted the decision, didn't want him to think I was blaming him. So I kept it inside, went back to work, smiled at my 3rd graders, taught long division, tried to forget. Life went back to normal pretty quickly. A month later, Ryan was already talking about maybe taking a trip to Europe in the summer. Mentioned how glad he was we didn't have responsibilities tying us down. And I nodded. Agreed. Tried to feel glad too. We did take that trip. Spent 2 weeks in Italy. It was beautiful. I told myself this was why we'd made that decision. So we could have these experiences. So we could be free. But sometimes when we'd see families with little kids at restaurants or in piazzas, I'd feel this ache, this emptiness. And I'd push it down, tell myself it wasn't the right time anyway, that we'd made the smart choice. The second situation happened a year and a half later. I'd been more careful, set alarms on my phone, never missed a day, but it happened anyway. Sometimes it just does. I found out on a Friday night. Ryan was at a work thing, some client dinner. I took the test alone. 2 lines again. This time I felt different. This time I thought, maybe now? It's been almost 2 years. We're more stable. Ryan's business is doing better. We're older, more mature. Maybe now he'll be excited. Maybe now is the right time. He got home around 11, a little drunk, happy. The dinner had gone well. Big client had signed. I decided to tell him right then, caught up in his good mood. Said, hey, I have something to tell you. I'm pregnant. Watched his face change again. Same as before. Smile disappearing. Jaw tightening. He sat down on the couch. Ran his hands through his hair. Said, fuck. Just fuck. I said, I know it's not planned, but maybe it's okay. Maybe this is the right time now. He looked at me like I was crazy. Sarah, I just landed the biggest client of my career. The next 6 months are going to be insane. I'm going to be working constantly. This is exactly the wrong time. We can't do this. I felt my heart sink. Felt that hope I'd been building crumble. Said, but you said after the last time. You said when things were more stable. Things are more stable now. He said, I said when we're ready. And we're not ready. I'm not ready. This would ruin everything I've been working toward. Everything we've been working toward. We fought that night. Really fought. I said it felt like there would never be a right time. That he'd always have an excuse. He said I was being unfair. That I was trying to trap him. That word, trap. Like I'd done this on purpose to ruin his life. I felt so small, so awful. Like I'd done something wrong. Like my body had betrayed us. Him. The fight ended with me crying and him saying we'd talk about it in the morning when we were both calmer. But in the morning he was different. Softer. Made me breakfast. Sat down with me, said, look, I love you. And I do want kids with you, but this timing is terrible. Think about what the next 6 months would look like. Me working 80-hour weeks. You dealing with everything alone. First trimester while you're trying to teach. Is that really how you want this to go? Don't you want to enjoy it? Don't you want us both to be present and excited? When he put it that way, it sounded reasonable, like he was thinking about me, about what would be best for me, for us. So I said, okay, you're right. We'll wait. We'll do it right next time. The second appointment was easier in some ways. I knew what to expect, but harder in others. Because this time I knew what I was giving up. This time I'd let myself hope, and that made it worse. Ryan came with me again, held my hand, paid, drove me home. For a week after, he was perfect. Brought me flowers, told me how much he appreciated me being understanding, how much he loved me for making this sacrifice for us, for our future. I try to feel good about that. Try to feel like we were a team making hard decisions together. But deep down, I felt something else. Something I couldn't quite name yet. Like I was disappearing. Like my wants and my body and my choices were becoming smaller and smaller. Like I was molding myself into whatever shape he needed me to be. Things changed after that second time. Not all at once. Gradually. Ryan started making more decisions for us. Where we'd go to dinner, what we'd do on weekends, when we'd see my family. If I disagreed, he'd bring up what happened before. He'd say, I'm just trying to make sure we're on the same page. Making good choices, like what we did before. Remember how that worked out, how we made the smart decision together? I'd feel guilty for disagreeing. Like I owed him. Like because he'd been right before, he was right about everything. I started seeing my friends less. Not because he told me I couldn't. He never said that. But he'd make comments about how Emma was still single and probably jealous of what we had. About how my other friend Jess was always dragging me out to bars when I should be home with him. Small comments, they added up, until it felt easier to just stay home, keep the peace. My family started noticing. My mom would ask if I was okay. My sister would text saying she missed me, that she felt like I'd disappeared. I'd tell them I was fine, just busy. Just focused on my relationship, building my life with Ryan. They'd say, okay, but you seem different. I'd brush it off, tell them they were overreacting. Because admitting they were right meant admitting something was wrong. And I wasn't ready to do that yet. The third time happened 6 months later. This time, I genuinely don't know how. I'd been so careful. But there I was, staring at 2 lines again. This time, I didn't feel hope. I felt dread, pure dread. Because I knew what was coming. Knew what he'd say. Knew how this would go. I waited 2 days to tell him. Kept hoping the test was wrong. That maybe this time would be different. But I knew it wouldn't be. I told him on a Wednesday night. We were washing dishes after dinner. I just said it. Quiet. Almost like I was confessing to something shameful. I'm pregnant again. He stopped washing. Stood there with his hands in the soapy water. Didn't look at me. Said, you have to be fucking kidding me. Not we. Not us. You. Like this was something I'd done to him. I said, I don't know how it happened. I've been so careful. He turned around, looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before, something between anger and disgust. Said, are you doing this on purpose? Are you trying to force this? Because I've been really clear about where I stand. I feel like I've been slapped. Said, no, of course not. I don't want this either. The words came out automatically. Defense, survival. He said, good. Because we're not keeping it, obviously. Then he walked out of the kitchen, left me standing there alone. We didn't talk about it again that night or the next day on Friday. He made the appointment, just made it, told me it was scheduled for Tuesday at 2 p.m. Didn't ask if that worked for me. Didn't discuss it, just informed me. I said, okay, because what else could I say? But something was happening inside me. Something was shifting. I couldn't name it yet, but it was there. A small voice, getting louder. That weekend, I went to see my sister. Hadn't seen her in months. Told Ryan I needed to. He didn't argue. Seemed almost relieved to have me out of the house. My sister Claire took one look at me and knew something was wrong. We were sitting in her living room drinking coffee and she said, okay, what's going on? I tried to say nothing. I'm fine. But she kept looking at me and I just broke. Started crying. Told her everything. About all 3 times. About how Ryan had convinced me each time. About how I felt like I was disappearing. About how I couldn't recognize myself anymore. Claire grabbed my hand. Squeezed it. Said something I'll never forget. She said, Sarah, that's not a choice if you're not allowed to choose. That's coercion. Hearing that word. Coercion. Something clicked. Something I'd been avoiding seeing for years suddenly became crystal clear. I went home that night and couldn't stop thinking about it. Kept replaying every conversation, every decision, every time Ryan had framed his wants as our best choice, every time he'd made me feel selfish for wanting something different, every time he'd convinced me that what I wanted didn't matter as much as what he wanted, what we needed, what was smart, what was right. But right for who? The appointment was in 3 days, Tuesday at 2 p.m. For the first time, I let myself ask the question I'd been avoiding. Do I want to do this? Not do we. Not is this the right choice for us? But do I want this? And the answer was no. No, I didn't. I didn't want to go back to that clinic. Didn't want to sit in that waiting room again. Didn't want to go through that again. Not for him. Not for us. Not for some theoretical perfect future that never seemed to arrive. No. It was Sunday night when I told him. We were sitting on the couch. He was on his laptop, probably working, always working. I said, I don't want to go on Tuesday. He didn't look up. Said, what? I said it again. Louder, clearer. I don't want to go. I'm not doing this again. Now he looked up, closed his laptop, said, Sarah, we've been through this. We've talked about it. This isn't the right time. I said, it's never the right time for you. There's always a reason, always an excuse. He said, they're not excuses. They're legitimate concerns about our future. I said, no, they're legitimate concerns about your future, your career, your plans. What about what I want? He looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language, said, what you want? You wanted this too. You agreed both times before. You made these choices with me. I said, no, I didn't. You made the choices. You decided. You convinced me. You made me feel like I was selfish or stupid or irresponsible if I wanted anything different. But I'm done. I'm not doing it again. The fight that followed was the worst we'd ever had. He called me irrational, emotional, not thinking clearly. Said I was ruining everything, throwing away our future, being selfish. That word again, selfish. Like wanting to make a decision about my own body was selfish. Like wanting to have a say in my own life was selfish.
I said, you know what? Maybe I am being selfish. Maybe it's time I was. He didn't expect that. He said if I went through with this, he was done. He'd leave. I'd be doing this alone. He said it like a threat, like that was supposed to scare me into compliance, into doing what he wanted. Again, for a second, I felt that familiar fear, that panic, the idea of being alone, of doing this without him, of losing the relationship I'd invested 4 years into. But then I thought about the alternative, staying with him, going to that clinic on Tuesday, giving up what I wanted again, making myself smaller again, disappearing a little more. I realized something in that moment. Being alone couldn't be worse than that. So I looked at him, said, "Then I guess you should leave." He didn't believe me at first, thought I was bluffing, trying to manipulate him, said, "You don't mean that?" I said, "Yes, I do. I mean it. If you can't support this, if you can't support me having a choice, a real choice, then we don't belong together." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, Fine. If that's what you want." Went into the bedroom, started packing a bag. I sat on that couch listening to drawers opening and closing, listening to him moving around. I felt terrified, absolutely terrified, but also something else, something I hadn't felt in years. I felt like myself, like I was taking up space again, like I mattered again. He left that night, went to stay with a friend, said he'd come back for the rest of his stuff later. I was alone in the condo, our condo, his condo. I sat there in the silence, and I cried. Cried for the relationship ending, cried for the 4 years I'd spent becoming smaller, cried for the 2 times before when I'd done what he wanted, cried for all of it. But underneath the sadness, there was something else. Relief. Actual relief. Like I could breathe again. The next morning, I called the clinic, canceled the appointment. The receptionist said okay and asked if I wanted to reschedule. I said no, I don't. Thank you. Hung up. That felt powerful. That felt like a real choice. My choice. Called my sister next, told her what happened. She said she was proud of me, that she'd support me whatever I decided to do next. Called my mom. She cried. Said she'd been worried about me for years. That she'd seen me disappearing but hadn't known how to help. Hadn't wanted to interfere. I realized I'd been more isolated than I'd thought. That he'd managed to make me feel like no one understood. Like it was us against the world. When really it was just him against me. Him controlling me, and I'd let him because I'd loved him. Because I thought that's what love was. Compromise, sacrifice, but it wasn't. Real love doesn't make you smaller, doesn't take your choices away, doesn't convince you that what you want doesn't matter. The first few weeks after Ryan left were hard, really hard. I cried a lot, doubted myself a lot, wondered if I'd made a mistake, if I should call him, try to fix things. But every time I thought about going back, I'd remember that feeling of being erased, of having no say, of being told my wants were selfish and wrong and irresponsible. I knew I couldn't go back to that. I'd rather be alone. Ryan did come back eventually, about 3 weeks after he left. He'd had time to think, he said, and he'd realized we could make it work. He'd support me. We could do this together. But when he said it, something felt off. Like he was reading from a script, like he was saying what he thought he should say, not what he actually meant. So I asked him. I said, "Do you actually want this? Or do you just want me to stop causing problems?" He hesitated, just for a second, but I saw it, that hesitation. I said, "That's what I thought. I appreciate you trying, but I think we both know this is over. We want different things. We are different people, and I need to choose myself now." He argued, said I was throwing away something good, that he'd changed his mind, that he was willing to compromise, but I wasn't interested anymore. Wasn't interested in compromises that meant I gave up everything and he gave up nothing. So I told him to take his stuff and go. And he did. That was the last time I saw him. Going through everything alone was terrifying at first. I won't lie about that. I'd wake up in the middle of the night panicking about money, about how I'd afford everything, about whether I could do this by myself, but I wasn't actually by myself. I had my sister, my mom, my friends who I'd slowly started reconnecting with. Emma came over almost every weekend, helped me set up the nursery, went to appointments with me. My mom flew in for the last month, was there when everything happened. I had a support system. I realized that Ryan had made me think he was the only person I could count on, the only person who mattered, but that wasn't true. There were so many people who loved me, who wanted to be there for me. I just stopped letting them in. My daughter was born on a Tuesday in November. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. When they put her in my arms for the first time, I felt something I'd never felt before. Pure joy, untainted by anyone else's wants or opinions or plans. Just joy, just love. I knew with absolute certainty that I'd made the right choice for me, for her, for the life I wanted to build. Today, 3 years later, I'm good, really good, not perfect. Being a single mom is hard, really hard. There are days when I'm exhausted, when I wish I had someone to share the load with, when I wonder what it would be like if things had been different, if Ryan had been different. But then I look at my daughter, at this smart, funny, beautiful little person I get to raise, and I know I wouldn't change anything because she's here because I chose myself, because I chose to have a say in my own life, my own body, my own future. I went back to teaching after maternity leave. My mom helped with childcare. Then I found an amazing daycare that my daughter loves. We live in a smaller apartment now. Can't afford the condo on a teacher's salary alone, but it's ours, mine and hers. And it's full of love and laughter and those little plastic toys I'm constantly stepping on. It's not the life I imagined when I was with Ryan. It's better because it's mine. Because every choice I make now is mine. And that matters more than I ever realized. I did start seeing someone new about a year ago. Someone I met through a friend. He's a teacher too. Elementary music. When I told him about my daughter, about being a single mom, about my past relationship, he listened, really listened. Then he said something that made me cry. He said, "It sounds like you're an incredibly strong person who had to make some really hard choices. And I'm glad you chose yourself, because now I get to know you, the real you." I realized that's what I'd been missing. Someone who saw me choosing myself as strength, not selfishness. Someone who wanted me to have a voice, wanted to hear what I thought, what I wanted. Someone who understood that love means making each other bigger, not smaller. If you're in a relationship where you feel like you're disappearing, where your wants don't seem to matter as much as your partner's, where you're constantly making yourself smaller to keep the peace, I need you to hear this. That's not love. That might look like love, might feel like love sometimes. But real love doesn't make you choose between yourself and your partner. Real love doesn't convince you that what you want is selfish or wrong. Real love doesn't take your choices away and call it compromise. Reproductive coercion is abuse. I know that now. I didn't know it then, but it is. Whether it's pressuring someone one way or another, whether it's through violence and threats, or through manipulation and guilt, it's abuse. If you're experiencing it, it's not your fault. You're not weak. You're not stupid. You're human, and you deserve better. Here's what I learned. First, your body is yours. Your choices about your body are yours. Anyone who tries to take those choices away for any reason is wrong. Period. It doesn't matter how much they love you, how logical their reasons sound, how much they've convinced you they know what's best. Your body, your choice. Second, choosing yourself isn't selfish. I spent years thinking that wanting what I wanted was selfish, that putting my needs first was wrong, that being a good partner meant always putting his wants above mine. But that's not true. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't be a good partner if you've erased yourself. Choosing yourself is how you survive, how you build a life worth living. Third, leaving is possible. I know it feels impossible when you're in it. I know you've built a life together. I know you love him. I know you're scared. But leaving is possible. And on the other side of that fear is freedom, is yourself, is a life where you get to choose. Love that costs your voice is not love. Let me say that again. Love that costs your voice is not love. Real love makes you bigger, makes you feel safe, makes you feel heard. If the person you're with can't give you that, can't see you that way, then they're not the right person. No matter how much you love them, no matter how much history you have, no matter how scary it is to leave, if you're facing pressure about anything related to your body right now, please talk to someone. A friend, a family member, a professional, someone who will listen without agenda. Someone who will help you figure out what you actually want, not what your partner wants, not what anyone else wants, what you want, then support you in that choice. Because that's what real support looks like. I wish I'd done that sooner. Wish I'd told someone after the first time, after the second time, before the third, but I didn't. I kept it to myself. Kept trying to convince myself that I'd made those choices freely, that we decided together, but we hadn't. Acknowledging that doesn't make me weak. It makes me honest. You deserve to be with someone who values your voice, your opinions, your choices. Someone who sees you as an equal partner, not someone to be managed or controlled or convinced. You deserve to feel big in your relationship, not small. You deserve to take up space, to want things, to choose things. And if the person you're with can't give you that, they're not the right person. If you're watching this and something inside you feels tight right now, that's not a coincidence. That tightness is your body trying to tell you something. Listen to it. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not imagining it. What you're feeling is real, and it matters. Leave a comment. Even if it's just a heart. Even if you can't put words to it yet. I'll know you're here. This channel exists so you know you're not alone. So you know other women have faced these impossible situations and survived, thrived even. Subscribe if this story meant something to you, because every week I'm sharing stories like this. Stories about women who chose themselves, who found their voices again, who rebuilt their lives. 3 years ago, I thought my life was ending. Thought losing Ryan meant losing everything. But I was wrong. Losing Ryan meant finding myself, meant choosing myself. Meant building a life where I get to be big, where my daughter gets to see a mother who values herself, who makes her own choices, who doesn't disappear for anyone. And that's the greatest gift I could give her, teaching her that she matters, that her voice matters, that she never has to make herself small for someone else's comfort, even someone she loves. You're gonna be okay. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. I know it feels impossible, but you're gonna be okay. You're stronger than you think, braver than you know, and you deserve so much more than you're getting. Choose yourself. Please, choose yourself. I believe in you.